Q&A participants, attendees. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Well, as always, I think we'll give a couple minutes and let everyone filter in. As always, you can ask a question in the Q&A. You can type it into the global chat, or if you prefer, you can just use the raise hand feature, and we will call on you and you can ask your question verbally. I need to make you host again, Sabrina.
Oh. I'm all good now, Bill. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, JK. There is no agenda to these daily lunch and learns, sir. We just join. Customers ask questions and we answer them either just verbally, point to documentation, workshop designs live, so on and so forth. Gotcha. So it's very much just a free-form place for, instead of you shooting an email into support, you can guarantee you get someone a bit more senior, and it's oftentimes easier to ask our questions live. So it's very much a free-form Q&A with no agenda.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anything you need help with? Anything we can?
Yeah, I was about to send an email about one thing I wanted to achieve. So, okay, so I want to create a flow that gathers data from the data source, and then I want to make them into a CSV file. And when I run the flow, I want the flow to download the file automatically. For example, if I turn this into a REST-based call, if I do a get or a post, or let's say if I do a get through the browser, I type the whole URL, including the session ID and the NS token and everything. And when I press enter, it should show the output, plus it downloads the CSV file into the browser itself. Is that possible out of the box, or do I need to do more steps in it?
You're just trying to bypass a form. You want to just have a right-click action that automatically downloads a file to a user?
Exactly. When I run a flow,
yeah.
Right, and then it should do the work and then automatically download. It's almost like when I'm doing an export, where it automatically downloads the file. I mean, there is a form, you click download, but here I want to bypass the form, but I want to directly download it.
Yeah, you can do that. So we've done this before. The manner in which you get access to the URL to download the file will be different. But let me add a quick folder here.
Sure. And what version of Decision is this one?
This is V7. 7.4? Yeah, this is 7.4.
Gotcha.
So if I look, I'm just going to add a document to this folder. I'll go ahead and choose a file. My installer setup file here is perfect. And what I can do is I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to add a flow as an action, so I don't have to create it. No, that's fine. I'll create a data type. This will be easy. User defined type, entity, test1, give it a single string property.
So, Will, we can do it simply this way, right? I mean, you can do a raw SQL step and you do a select, let's say, first name from the accounts table, right? And then you have a list of account string, and I want to put them into maybe take first name and last name. So it becomes comma separated. Now you have two values, CSV based. And when you run the raw SQL step, there's an option that you can say CSV file as an output. So now you have the file, and I want to get that file automatically downloaded, right? That's what I would like to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, wonderful. We can do that. So we're going to create our flow.
Yeah.
Auto download. All right, we are going to use a raw SQL step.
Yeah.
On the raw SQL step, we are going to query
the entity
the account table.
Yeah.
And the output of this will be set to return data.
Yeah.
We will output a CSV file.
Perfect. Yeah.
What I'm going to do is leverage a step here.
Yeah.
Called inform session.
Okay.
Wait. So I have the file here. Hold on. Wait 1 second.
Yeah, it creates a file data, right? If you look at the raw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Open URL. All right, let's try this. Bear with me just a second. I know if we have a document or a file reference, I know how to do this because we can make a URL. We can use inform session to call. So let's see what happens if we pass out file data. This will be CSV file. And this will be file data. And in this, I will select the result from our raw SQL step.
Yep.
Now what I'm going to do, let me get the integration details link. Reference ID or path. Done.
We have to configure the HTTP methods.
Do I have to?
I believe so. I don't think it'll show anything if you don't say like configure HTTP methods on the bottom. Get post.
Thank you, sir. So login, that's fine. Additional options. So file type, here's our URL. Some of this is going to look different because it's in 7, but this is just the 7 version of integration details. So I have this flow. Now I'm going to build a different flow. So this is an auto download. Let's name this to get, account list or something, account CSV list. Now I'll make my auto download flow. And in here, I'm going to use inform session. Where'd you go? Inform session. And now here, I'm going to navigate to a URL. I'm going to open a URL.
I see.
Open in new window false. And let me just put in that link as a constant here. Now, if I'm right, I'm not sure this is going to work, but if I run flow 1, okay, just opens up a new window and sends me that. So let's try.
That's a base 64, right? Output because file data.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So I want to not output raw. I want to do this by API. I just lost my view, didn't I? Let me log back into my local. Okay, auto download. So flow 1, get account CSV list here. I don't want to view API service. What happens if I do ID or? Okay, form title. Let me try this version here. I'll walk back. If I get this to work this way, I will walk back through this in more detail. That's not going to work. Oh man, what is it? That checkbox is not behaving the same way as it should. So if we're generating a file, we can't save it as a file. I think we're gonna have to. I could do a bad design would be to have the flow save itself, save the output as either a decisions document or a file reference. At which point we can access it by a URL. But then we'd have to implement some kind of cleanup activity.
Okay.
For that, because you can definitely do this. So, for example, where I was going is with this document. I could go to manage, get document URL, and then in this, I can use this URL in my inform session step to automatically download the file here. At least this worked in 6. Let's make sure it's not an issue with 7. Yeah, and so it'll actually download the file on our behalf. So as long as we need a URL to call, and that needs to be likely one of our file handler URLs. Let's look at that URL a bit better. So get document URL is primary. This is taking document ID. Let me add a file reference to this. If I add a file reference entity, let me come over to another screen here and get a URL for a file reference entity. Just a moment. Let's see let's compare and contrast those endpoints. Just a second here. Okay, this one has a file. Let's look at this. Manage, get download link. Large file handler with a file reference ID. I think this is only going to work if we, just to pull this over so you see what I'm seeing here. This is from a file reference entity. But that is added. So the only way, if you want to bypass it, that I can think of is if we would have to either save it as a document or a file reference. So the run raw SQL, add it as a file reference, and then another flow would need to have access to that file reference and be able to call it, and then clean up the file in some way.
So that location where it saves should be commonly accessible, right, by decision? Right, so that means it should be a path in the file storage location.
You're not. So this is either one of these. The document we were looking at before, as well as this one, imply you adding a document or a file reference itself. So, which is one of our default document types. We don't have to do this at all if you just show the form, of course, right? Because you can pass the CSV output of the raw SQL step right to a download link on the form.
Oh, okay. I mean, if that's form is
the
easy, yeah, if that's
the
easy,
easiest.
yeah, let's do it that way then.
If you do have a URL, you can, if you have a URL, create an automatic download bypass where you don't have to show a form. And we've done this in some places where you can imagine you have like a case folder that says download report. And on a right click action, you click it and it just downloads the report automatically for you. But if you're not saving the file, then you can't get a link to download it. Thus, you'd have to create some tricky and probably finicky and fragile document logic to get that to occur. And it's probably just easier just to let a user have to click another link on a form once it's shown. That is definitely a more simplified design.
Now I have a question on continuing that. Aren't we able to automatically download it if we integrate with the report directly instead of avoiding using SQL, we just integrate with that report Via REST integration. I think that downloads it.
I think it's just going to show you the JSON. I don't think you can get a report as a CSV from the API, can you?
I'm not sure. I know it. I'm pretty confident. I think it downloads a file. So if you run a report with the accounts and then integrate with that report, I think it just downloads something to you.
That's if you run it as a step in a flow, right? Interesting idea. You might be on. I don't think you're right, but you might be onto something there. Let's see.
Worth a shot. This way we get first name, last name.
Okay, so this is configure integration, API service, data format, PDF.
Or Excel.
Or Excel. Oh, Jared. Uh-oh. Jared's on the hunt. Jared's about to do all these now. All right, so let's view this. So I'm running the report directly, gonna get an Excel file out. So if I run this in this tab, I get what?
I was hoping.
I get a download. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
All right, so let me just confirm that same URL in our inform session step will work. Clever, Jared. That's very clever. I'm assuming, given what we saw before, that it will.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Hey, look at that. Nice job. Hey, good thinking, Jared. Yeah. So
Thanks.
I can show you in that sense, all we did now, assuming this exists in 6, which I'm sure it does, but
yeah,
the data format we specified on the API integration details page for the report, we were able to specify Excel here as one of the output types.
Yeah. So in my case, Will, is that I'm combining 3-4 tables to come up with 3 columns, right? So can I just do through a raw SQL?
Yeah.
And then maybe feed it to the report, perhaps?
Well, there's a raw SQL data source.
There is. So is it a feature in 6.2? Like
yes, this has been around since time immemorial. So you could write, you can write this query, and then you just add your fields here. So I would say, email address.
Okay.
Type string. That gives me email address, and I can select email address. Connection string can't be empty, of course, so I will say use current connection, refresh preview. Let's see, save and see if I can get this to work. Run. Okay, it wants it to be case specific, I bet. Let me edit the definition. Email address. It wants probably this to be perfect. Let's see. Email address. Let me look at one of my raw queries, ones that I have, so I can compare this. Just a moment here. So I bet it's very case specific, which means it would probably be email address. Oh, come on. Let me save this report. Didn't take any of those changes. That's nice. Yeah, it doesn't like email address.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll get this to work. Sorry, go ahead, JK.
Sorry, one other question
there
is that
there it is. Okay. It has to match the property name in the SQL exactly here.
Gotcha. Okay, so if I set the pagination to 500 and I happen to have, let's say, 2000 rows returned in the download file, am I going to see only 500 or 2000?
You should get all of them.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping for.
Let's try this really quick. We'll just say this will be entity name. All right, so this, when we run it, should have like 1200 some results. So it's got 1300 on a pagination of 500.
Okay.
So if we call that link again.
Yeah.
There's report. And I won't be able to show it if it's on my browser, but I can give you the row count verbally. I've got 1,300 rows here.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. I think this helps a lot. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the question, JK. And so these are Monday through Thursday at noon Eastern all the time.
Okay.
So
okay.
happy to
Monday
have
to
these
Thursday.
types of, if you got one of these,
Cool.
it's easier to just join and ask, please feel free.
Will do. Thank you very much.
All right, here we go. Got a question from Jeff Beam. Can someone point me to a help doc on how to print a document from my app? Reports don't work as they are all just lists for dashboards. I tried the Word bookmark process, but since bookmarks are unique and the document has repeating lines, that's no good. Basically, I want to print out a purchase order or invoice with some random number of line items, but I can't find a way to do that. This is an example of the PDF I need to produce my decisions app. All the data are in external tables, not the decisions database. I'm not sure I follow exactly. You're wanting to create a document dynamically?
Right. So like if I go through I'm building a purchase order with the approvals, and at the end I have to print out the document that looks like a formatted document, you know, like the ship to, bill to address at the top, each line item in the middle, and then a footer at the bottom with a signature, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
I looked at the reports, but reports are all like lists of things.
Correct. Yeah, and specifically, you have a variable number of line items.
Correct.
Okay, so this can be done, but it's a little bit of work. Just gonna forewarn you here. And what we do is leverage a couple steps, which is dynamic PDF builder. And what we do is actually we use a workflow to generate HTML, and then we pass that HTML into a HTML to PDF step.
Okay.
And then where did my new folder just go? There. And then that spits out a PDF the other end. So let's look at a very simplified example. So you can definitely get in the weeds here, and we have some customers that are building up incredibly complicated PDF files doing this type of process. So first thing I love is an in velocity step, and I don't think we have a good document for this about doing this. Andrew, do you mind confirming that? If we have any docs about building up dynamic PDFs currently. I'm going to go and get the HTML5 declaration from W3 Schools. Here's my my text merge. I'm going to put this in the body here. Now with this, I can use $signs to create variables. So I'm going to come in here and say $, item name, and I'll get item name here. And I'll just set this I'll set this to be an input to my flow. So I'll just say item name, so I can make this a little bit more dynamic, for example. And then I'm going to pass item name into item name here. All right, and then I'm going to find in my steps here, in my PDF step, it should be HTML to PDF right here. And then the HTML will come from which is merge string, and merge string is the output of my custom merge step here, which I can see under the outputs. Include page numbers, I'll say true. Page number and alignment, I can set this to, right. And the PDF file name, I'll just make a static name. All of these things could be variable. And unlike the other example we were just seeing, I'm just going to show a form to download this thing. So create a really quick form. And I'll put a button and a file download. And this will be, dynamic PDF as the name. All right, then go to button here. So dynamic PDF will be the output of our HTML to PDF step, whose name is PDF file. Now, if I save this and then debug it and start debugging, should get my form. I can then click download, and here's test PDF, which will be the content of this document.
Yep.
Oh, I guess I didn't actually turn that. Let's quickly change that so that that value I added shows up as something. It's just a dumb, yeah. So the content of this document item name would be, I guess, like I could make this like into like a paragraph or something. So it actually knows to add that as text. Let's see if I can. Let's try that now. Doesn't like that. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure why it's not showing my text. What am I missing to make this example helpful? Item name. It's getting, because I'm not
set
passing
item
any
name to
value
anything.
in.
Yeah.
There you go. Details, man. So I can run this, download the file, and there it is, item name details, man.
So how do you do the looping for this on the like if you have a purchase order,
Yep.
header stuff, the line items?
Great question. So what we would do is I'm going to create a list of things here, a string's called line items, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I will remember to give it values when we run this again. So here's my list of line items. So I am going to keep, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to build up, I'm going to for each that list.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a create data step. I'm going to declare the start of like an unordered list in HTML, right? So show editor, create a string called start, start list or something. And start list is going to be like something like UL open, and then it'll be, that'll be it, right? And then I'm going to do a for each, and then move this stuff out of the way a little bit. And I'm going to use this custom merge step, which I will copy and paste. And I'm going to loop that list through here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to close it after I'm done. And so this will be I'm just doing straight
Yep.
HTML manipulation now, right?
Yep.
I'm going to close that. So on my for each step, I will loop the line item string list. That gives me a string as the output. And then on custom merge here, what I'm going to do is a little bit of trickery. I'm going to say $ previous values. And previous values is going to be, I'm going to pass in, start list is probably the wrong, is a bad name for this, but I'm going to pass in the value start list here, and then get rid of this, and I'm going to say, open a line item, and it's going to be, new thing, and it'll be $ current item as my variable. And then I will close the list item behind it. This gives me current item. Now in the for each, it takes in that list and gives me out the name item, which is a type string.
Yep.
So it's going to loop through every item in that list and build up a, and then the one thing I need to do here is on the bottom, I'm going to change value of start list, which is what I declared here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this will be close list. And I'm going to actually do a merge here. Let me change this. I'm going to merge. I'm going to take start list, and I'm just going to add a closing unordered list tag, and then change the value of start list. And if I have this right, I should be able to come in here, and below my paragraph name, this will be, line item list. And then line item list will be start list. Let's see if this is going to work. I don't usually get this right on the first try. I'll run this. So item will be item name. And then line items will be A, B, C, D. Save this as unit test just to make it easy to test. And I will run my test, download my file, open it, and see new thing A, B, C, D. That's
All right.
An unordered list. So we will. So Jeff, we post this on the
Okay.
on our YouTube. I know that was fast. You probably want to walk through that again. We'll get that uploaded on our YouTube and get that link sent over. But this is a really super simple. Most of your work is going to be in the HTML itself and not the flow. So I would recommend not building it in the flow per se, but like using like an HTML online editor.
Gotcha. Yep.
get it squared away, and then you can take that HTML, drop it in your in-velocity merge steps in the appropriate places, parameterize them with $signs, and then you'll find that to be a more efficient way. But there should be, I'm sure there's edge cases where it doesn't handle the formatting exactly nicely, but you can really dial in some nice looking dynamically created PDFs this way.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, any other questions about this?
Nope, I'll give that a go.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, thank you for the question. That's a great question. All right, who else has got questions today? That's a fun one. I haven't built a dynamic PDF, in a long time. Probably because the last time I did it, it was many hours of my life were sunk into writing HTML. Yeah, go ahead, Alex. If you're talking, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, hi there. Yeah, so I just I'm wondering, similar to a form where I can have like, for example, a series of buttons in a vertical stack, and then use visibility rules to basically, show and hide them, depending on some kind of condition. Just trying to figure out if I can do something similar to that on a dashboard page with, run flow type buttons.
You want a dashboard with run flow buttons can you restate that? Sorry, somebody just kicked over my trash can while you were asking that, and I missed part of that question.
Okay, so like if I take the form example and I have a form vertical stack and I put a series of buttons in the vertical stack, I can show and hide those based on visibility rules in the form. And the showing and hiding can be based on, security permissions or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So basically trying to figure out if there's a way that I can do that on a dashboard page using, instead of buttons, using like run flow buttons.
Mm-hmm. And those run flow buttons would like interact with like a flow run part on the dashboard?
Yeah.
And they would hide and show, they would like click one and it would show some rows of data, click another and it would show different rows of data?
Okay, so I mean, like right now I have a dashboard that has, I'm pretty sure they're called run flow buttons, which basically start a flow, like for
Correct.
employee hire or whatever. And but let's say, for example, you don't have permission to run that flow.
Okay.
I want to be able to security trim this thing, kind of thing. So I'm using the paradigm, like the example of the form, because that's something I know how to do. If I were doing this in a form, I would know how to do that. But if I want to put it up on a dashboard, I'm wondering if there's a way to get that done, using the types of controls that are available in a page rather than a form.
The simplest way would be if you I would eschew the use of run flow buttons and use like a action bar. So action visibility rules will apply to action bars in the same way they apply to their right-click context menu. If the folder, so one example is if you had a folder with this content, and that was a folder extension, and you put a folder action bar on that, that based on the permissions that would apply for right-click actions would hide and show what buttons were available to the current user. In the same way, if you were to right-click it and see the actions in the context menu, those would be hidden. Are you using or familiar much with action visibility rules currently?
So I'm using action visibility rules. I am, yeah. For basically to show and hide right-click actions on report viewer components.
Yeah, so I would say get away from run flow buttons and use an action bar. So let's really quickly create a space here, which is action bars for the win. Run flow buttons are nice, but they're just, you don't want to have to design, you don't have to create design changes just to introduce a new action on a dashboard, right? You should be able to just drop an action in and get it to show up. So I'm going to create a folder extension here called test folder extension 1, give it a property, and I'm going to just show add actions, show add, edit, and delete so I can quickly add one. Okay, so I'll quickly add a action. So action bars, add entity user defined test folder extension 1, test folder. All right, so here's test folder. Now I could allow this to, there's no reason I can't allow this to be a fold, like a root folder. In fact, if I edit my folder extension, I should have a property that says show in tree. Yeah, I'd probably have to refresh for this to show up. And maybe if I have to then edit this one, let me see here, edit it, show in tree. Let's try a new one. Let me come to my apps, add user defined test folder, test 2. Wonderful, there's test 2. So now I have effectively I have a folder. I can make it a root folder if I want. So I'm going to come into this and create a page. And on this, I'm going to search for action, and I'm going to find folder actions. Not that one. I'm going to find actions bar. Sorry. Is this the one I want? This is the one I want. So this action bar is a persistent view of your right-click context menu. And I can go ahead and save this. Now, is it going to propagate to test 2? Hey, it did. So test 2 doesn't have any actions. So let's add some actions to it. So entity user actions, create user action flow 1. That's not what, user action flow 1. And let's assume something happens in this flow. And user actions, create user action flow 2, create this flow. And I can save this. So if I come back to test 2, I should see my actions, which I don't. Maybe that's not refreshing. Let's try it really quickly. Add test 3 here. Let's see it. Oh, I didn't actually create the page, did I? Page 1, sorry. I have page data, edit this. Why is this not displaying? Let me put a report viewer here. See if that shows up or not. Second here. My report viewer is there. Let me try restarting really quickly. I'm not sure why my actions aren't showing in my action bar. Just a moment. Let me just get this to start really quick. Anyways, but what you'll see is those actions are going to show in this action bar. And that means in my configuration folder, I can write action visibility rules based on user group and hide and show those actions. So you're not really editing the page, you're just using a particular form or page control that both knows the context it's in and can, which is our folder extension, and can have visibility rules applied to it to hide or show its contents, as opposed to doing some trickery with vertical or horizontal stacks to hide and show your run flow buttons. This slightly alternate pattern is much more flexible and gives you what you're after with much less custom work. Like you could build a form to be your header bar with buttons on it. Yeah, there they are. I don't know why those weren't showing. So now I can then write normal action visibility rules to hide UAF1 or UAF2 from the particular users. Does that make sense? And or is clear?
Okay, so I mean the idea is attractive. I'm just not there on how this actually gets implemented. But,
okay, so yeah, we created a folder extension to be our folder, and the reason we did that is because we want the ability to create a page with an action bar and allow action visibility rules to control the view of those actions. And then we deployed that folder extension, even if it's only a single folder, like you're just going to have one folder for your project, which is the dashboard, right? In the same way you've added normal folders, you just added this thing. You just now have a custom folder behavior that you can use. So now you have test 1 and test 2 with actions UAF1 and UAF2 shown on it right now. And so if I come back to my extension, my folder extension, I can create an action visibility rule, and I'll say hide UAF1 from all users, even admins, right? For whatever reason. And now I'm going to add an action visibility rule, and I'll say if the flow data initiating user group list contains, and I'll say administrators. And I'll add another rule, and the action name equals UAF1. Sounds like a soccer team. And I'll click save. So what I'm going to do is if I come back to test 2, okay, what did I get wrong about my rule? Sorry. If the initiating user group list contains administrators and the action name equals UAF1. That's right. Tell me I don't have to get this thing. Something's wrong on this build. Sorry, let me try bouncing this again and see if this if this refreshes. Struggling a bit with my 7 install today.
Okay, I think the thing, like, I'm just kind of unfamiliar with the action bar, so I just need to,
Just all you should think. There it is. I don't understand why that's. Just think of if I right click, the action bar is just a different experience of the right click context menu. You'll see it has manage and open, right? If I come to all, it'll have manage and open, or it's giving you the categories here. It's
Right.
just it says another view of the right click context menu is all. So in the same way you can hide and show the actions here, they will be hidden, and they apply the same visibility logic, exactly same visibility logic to the action bar here. It's just a different view of the context menu.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say this would be the easiest way, because when you add a new flow, you don't go edit your form. Like in this example, you just go to your your folder extension config folder, drop in your entity action, update your existing action visible rules or add a new one. And in that case, unlike what we saw today, those should automatically update. And now you have a new action that's filtered automatically, and it'll hide and show in the action bar in the same exact way it hides and shows on the right click context menu.
Yeah, so I like this this approach. The only thing is that, like, for example, I want to be able to group these things into classes and that sort of stuff. So
yeah, you can do that. You can create categories in the same way we have all here. You can create a category with has your own custom actions here. Yeah, and all you do there is if you edit your entity action, which is, let me go to list here. If I go to UAF2 and I edit it, I can set its classification info here, give it a category name of custom cat. And if I come back, it's not, I don't have, this is driving me nuts. There it is. So that's something's wrong there. But custom cat now has UAF2 inside of it.
Cool.
And you can hide and show the categories or hide and show the actions. You just write the rules appropriately.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. I think we have a question. Trung, there's a question that you have into support right now. Is that something I can help you with?
Thank you. You hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I have a very simple question that the customer want to limit the selection on the drop down. They know that user can type free text in the drop down, but actually it doesn't take the value and it return blank. But the customer wants to notify that they don't allow to key in any free text in the drop down. I don't know any other option to limit that.
They want to prevent you from typing into the drop down at all?
Yes, they want to select exactly item in the list or leave it blank.
Well, you can set it up to not accept the typed in value, but you can still type in it, I think, right?
Right.
Let's see here. Let me let's pull up a flow really quick. So here's our form. We'll create our form. And we'll put a drop-down list, type be data name, type will be string. This will be DDL, selected DDL. Outcome scenarios is a button. Okay. Save this. All right, so if I debug this, oh, I need to give it some values, sorry. Get ahead of myself. So selected DDL we will ignore. Drop down list we will set to A. Oh God, A, B, C, D. Debug. Okay, so here's our list. So if I type in A, it gives me A, right? But if I type this in and submit, it won't let me submit because it's not in the list. That's not sufficient.
Actually, this is not required field. So if it's a required field, then it's very easy to set it as required.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if not,
So it's
then,
optional.
Yeah.
So let's set this to optional. And so we will say outcome is optional. So if it's optional, it will, and I type in this garbage, it'll let me submit it. Now, does that come out? No,
Blank.
it doesn't come out, but they can type it in. It appears that they can, right?
Yes.
All right. So let's see. Now I'll have to do. Let's see. I bet we can. I'm sure. Now I'm going to come under legacy here in version 7 and a validation rule. Let's try to build a validation rule to stop this. So it'll be check drop down list input. And the validation source is a rule. We will pick or create a rule. We will create a new one. Yes. Create. Now this will take in 2 pieces of input data, selected value and list values, both of which are strings, but this is list values is a string list. Let's save this. And this is going to be if the selected value in list, and then we're going to do select value list values, return true. So if the selected value is not in the list, we will return false. Wait, we'll return true if it's in the list. I did that wrong. I always do that wrong. Let me see. Return true if the selected value is in the list that we pass in. Okay. So save this, update our inputs. Now, selected value comes from form component typed in text combo box. Oh, I see. Is selected drop-down list. Okay. And we're going to have to get a little clever with our list values. So we'll come in here and we'll name this. It'll be a form input data. And we're going to trick this thing into being something. Let me just find out what that is. So if I look at the input, the list name is DDL. Come back down to legacy, edit, list values, form input name DDL. What I'm doing is trying to use the same data name to pass it into the validation rule and the drop-down list at the same time. So, dang, my visibility. All right, I get this to work. What do I got? Oh, I got time. All right. Come on, open up. All right, legacy, check DDL input. And apply to control combo box. Run rule on form show. Let's try this. In fact, what I'm going to do is this. Make this a little quicker. Stay in my form. Oh, I didn't want to do that. All right, let me exit. So I can debug from here and edit my form from here. Debug. Validation rule broken. Validation rule broken. Submit. Okay. You want me to walk back through that? I know that was very fast. We can use a validation rule to prevent that from happening. So what I did, go ahead.
I think we should put a blank value into the list. So it make the drop down accept the blank value.
Oh,
Otherwise, they cannot leave it blank.
so you want it to be in the list or empty?
Yes.
Okay, so let's edit our rule here. Now is selected values in list, and we're going to add an either or group. So we're going to then right click this, copy, and put it in, paste it here, remove it from the top. Or we will add a condition that says selected value is empty. Save this. Back to our other tab. Run a new flow. All right, so ASDF. It shouldn't have done that. Let's try this. Start again. Debug. Why is that running? Or no value is empty is true. Oh. Oh, no, this is what you want, right? This is what you want. I'm thinking of it the wrong way. No, but it's not taking in this value at all. So it always comes in null. If I look at form rule 1, no value got passed in at all. No, that's okay. We will edit our form. We will say allow other values. So click the drop-down list, allow external values to be selected, save this, return, debug. Okay. Right, boom, it won't do that, but there we go. That's what you're after, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Great.
so I can either select one of the items or keep it empty, but I cannot type in a value that's not in the list and go forward. Okay,
Great.
so what we did is we use the toggle allow external values be selected. Now this is only available on string lists, not complex types. So you have to have a string list here. So you might have to translate a data type list from something to strings and refetch it on the back end. Just a note. And if we look at our rule here, I edit my rule. What I did is the rule's pretty straightforward. It has 2 inputs, selected value type string and list values string list. So it says if the selected value is in the list values or selected value is empty. And the way I got selected value in is very easy. It's form component, the data name of the selected item on the drop-down list, right? Which is selected drop-down list. And the way I got the list values in is I kept it as form input data, and I gave it the exact same name as the list data name of the drop-down list. With all that function, all that configured in place, I can get it to do what I think you're after here. Does that work?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, we'll send the link out to the YouTube after this, but you'll be able to review it once we have it posted if you want to walk back through this on slower.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. 6 minutes left. Anyone got anything we want to attack here really quickly? Good questions today. And shout out to Jared for teaching me something about the product today. I'm gonna try not to be insecure about my product. So.
Only took me 2 years to do that.
All right, if that's everything, if you guys are trying to ask a question, just shoot the raise hand function up, or otherwise we'll go ahead and call it a day. Okay, well, awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. I'll be back tomorrow, and Appreciate. Oh, there's a new message. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you bet. Thanks everyone. Appreciate the questions. We'll talk to you tomorrow.